Hey guys. I'm good. How you doing? Good morning or good afternoon, whatever it happens to be. All right. So, I'm just going to play around with this. Trying to get my tripod all set up. Hopefully that balances. All right, so say hi if you're there. I'm just going to have a little bit of a chat about getting out of your own way. All right. Cool. So, here's what I want to chat with you about. Have you heard the expression before? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, right? I'm sure you've heard that saying before. And so what it refers to is obviously that you can basically outline something, you can show someone the perfect path for them to go on for their goals, whatever it is that you happen to be helping people with, whatever your career, whatever your anything is, right? You can basically give them the exact steps that they need to get there. And it still doesn't mean that they're going to do it. It still doesn't mean they're going to A, get the success that you're wanting for them, and B, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to follow through and do it. So, actually, give me just a sec. Okay. It's annoying me, this angle. You know how vain I am. I hate bad angles. So I'm trying to work out the angles, but that's all right. All right, cool. I'll just deal with it and get over it. I might just stay up this close. Might do that. All right, so basically what I'm saying, so you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can give someone the exact steps they need, the exact everything that they need, and it doesn't mean that they're going to A, do it, and it doesn't mean that they're actually going to get the results. And this is something that I've realized a little bit more this week as you know, every time you kind of start filtering more and you start to get down into who you're actually meant to be working with and who you're not meant to be working with, the universe will always test you. It'll always throw you a few curveballs. And so recently I've had the experience of having a few people that on the outside looked ideal to me, right? They looked like exactly the kind of people that I want to work with and that I need, that more to the point that need my help and need my expertise and all that. But on closer inspection, and after a little bit of time, it actually became clear that it wasn't a good fit. And the reason for it is this, that basically everybody is seeing things through their own perception, right? So we all see exactly what we see as our reality, what we see as the way things are, is actually in fact just the way that we see it through our own perception. So while someone might see a particular situation as a travesty or a horrible thing or whatever, someone else sees it differently. And so we can most easily, I guess, look at it from the point of view of, for example, like the political climate, right? So for a lot of people, having Trump as president now is a horrible thing and they've got all these opinions about what it means and all that kind of stuff. Whereas for a lot of other people, they have different opinions about what it means and how it's going to impact the world, right? Some very positive, some very negative, some in the middle, right? Some, who the hell knows? I'm going to join that camp of, we'll just see what happens, I guess. But basically, it's all just tainted by our own perceptions, how we see things, right? So this is really important when you're dealing with people to understand that because we're all seeing through our own perception, here's what I really want to talk about, while I've sort of led into it. The thing to remember, and the thing that I want to talk about today, is that people will only hear what they want to hear. Right? And this comes down to our filters and our perceptions. So when someone's telling you something, you have a particular filter, a way that you sort of cognitively decide to accept the information or not, the way that you process it, the way you deal with it. And especially when it's someone who's helping you with something, a lot of the time you will not process the information in the way that they may have it intended, right? Because we hear what we want to hear. We hear the things that will validate our belief right now. That's really important. So maybe, I don't know, note that down. Just have a think about that. We hear what validates our beliefs. So even though I may have been saying this, and this, and this, and this is the actual reality, even if I'd said something really small off the cuff tangent, there's a good chance that if the person's beliefs did not actually coincide with what I was trying to tell them, that they would in fact hear just that little snippet that basically was a side note and had nothing really to do with anything. But if that was what they were looking for, if that was what their beliefs were already at, then that is exactly what they would have looked for to validate them, right? So in regards to this, we have to be really careful that we just have to realize sometimes it's not the way that you've said it. It's not even what you've said. A lot of the time it can be just who says it. Sometimes a different person needs to say it. But a lot of the time it's just everybody's seeing things through their filter. Everyone's hearing things through their own filter, through their own perception, and they're just looking to hear what they want to hear. And you can be the best intentioned and you can tell them all the right things and say, look, I've been where you are, obviously not in the exact same situation, but here's, the reality of it. Here's what I've known from 10 years down the track, from whatever it is, from my experience and from, countless other people that you've worked with, so clients or friends or anything. Sorry, my eye's doing something funny. You can tell them that as much as you want, but if that's not what they're looking for, if that answer doesn't really fit with their belief system at the moment, which may be quite limited still, then they're just going to hang on to the little things that you might say that may not really be the whole story, and they kind of might even run off on that tangent, right? So they might hear what you've said, but they will filter it differently and they will arrive at different conclusions and therefore take different action, right? I hope that makes sense. So it's really important to realize that, look, sometimes, like I said at the beginning, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. You can tell people the best intention things and try to help them and try to support them, and you might think that they are actually a perfect fit for something that you can help them with. But at the end of the day, all of that logical stuff aside, all of the technicalities aside, all of the what on the surface seems like perfect match or not, really just comes down to this: are they taking what you're saying on board or not? Right? And if they're not, then at the end of the day, it's not a good fit. If they aren't actually taking what you're saying and going, oh yeah, you know what, that's really true, I'm going to go with that, then there's some sort of disconnect. And it might not be your fault. It might, I'm not taking personal responsibility for the fact that someone doesn't listen to me. That's by and by. It really doesn't matter who does or doesn't listen to me. The people that need to listen to me will listen to me, and vice versa. I very readily listen to the people that I know I need to listen to. So that's not an issue. It'll happen, and it is happening. So it's not an issue if someone doesn't listen to me. But it is important to just remember, well, you know what? Sometimes everyone has their own journey. They've got to do it. And yes, it's frustrating when you can just see that if they just did it your way, they would just arrive there so much faster, so much easier, and just save themselves so much pain. I get that. That's frustrating. It'd be really nice if people would just make it easier on themselves, but that's part of the human journey. If you think back to things that you struggled with, things that you now find really easy, if someone were to tell you, well, let's just take away the entire lesson that you had there, the entire path, sometimes you'd be like, oh yeah, that'd be cool, I wish I just knew that. And there's a lot of things in life that you're like, I wish I'd just known that back then. But for a lot of us, lessons are part of life, right? And it's the way that we learn best. And it is sad and it's frustrating when you know you could save someone that extra wasting of time and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, if it gets them to where they want, then it's probably not that great a waste of time. The risk, I suppose, is that if they're not, if they are sort of just picking up on the tidbits that you're saying and not actually going with the main point of the advice and the help and the support, then there's a good chance they might not ever arrive there. And so 10 years down the track, 20 years down the track, whatever, you might still, you probably won't have them in your life anymore, but you will still somehow find out that they actually haven't progressed whatsoever because they've still continued that path of not actually looking in the right places for the right way to move forward, and instead just keep on jumping onto the next sort of little quick fix and whatever works. And it's a self-worth thing. So this comes down to self-worth a lot of the time, whether you believe that you deserve something better or whether you deserve something worse or something lesser, basically. And a lot of the time this will actually come down to finances and to monetary value, that at the end of the day, we just don't value things as much when they're cheap or free as when we pay for them. And that's common sense. We pay for things that we obviously want or need, and we value them enough to hand over our hard-earned money, right? So that just makes sense. But it comes down to self-worth as well, that a lot of the time, and especially looking back on my years struggling with abundance and money and all that kind of self-worth around finances, looking back on that, and not to say that I'm, anywhere near where I'm going at the moment. I'm still very much working up to it. But just looking back a little bit, I know that very much whenever I shied away from investing in myself and investing in the help and support that I really could have used back then, it was purely because I didn't believe that I was worth it. I didn't believe that spending money on myself in this way would pay off, in the sense that I wasn't worth it in the end. That no matter what I did, I was useless, right? So I would bunny hop from free thing to free thing, from free program to free support to whatever it is, and always wonder why I wasn't getting anywhere, because, well, don't get me wrong, there's plenty of great free content out there. I'm one of the people that provide plenty like this of free content, right? And there's hundreds and thousands probably as well that do it. So it's not saying that what's free is bad, not by any means. But when it comes to actually taking the leap and investing in yourself for real, in terms of whatever goals you have, whether they're like health and fitness goals, or whether they're career, or just self-development, or getting through particular issues or disorders, or whatever it is, there comes a time, especially when it comes to, like for me, with my binge eating, right, that I didn't believe that I deserved and I was worthy of having proper support and proper help. I was so ashamed of everything that I was doing that I thought the only people that could help me were those that were just as down as me, just as lesser as me, I guess. So going back to the main point of, like I said, and I've forgotten the name of the live stream. I've forgotten what it is, but that's okay. I know what the gist of it was, right? But it does come down to, well, you can try and help them as much as you want. You can try and show them every single which way that this will work for them, and try and explain yourself as clearly as possible as well. It doesn't mean they're going to hear you. It doesn't mean they're going to listen if they hear you, and it doesn't mean they're going to apply it. There's several steps to go from trying to get what's in your head out to someone else's head, and there's so many steps involved in that the other person needs to be receptive to for it to work. Otherwise, it doesn't work, basically. It needs to go through all of those steps in order to get there. So you can take the horse to water, can't make it drink. Everyone is going to see things through their own perception. Therefore, they're going to try and validate it in exactly the way that suits them, and in exactly the way that makes sense to them for what they already believe. And if the part of their belief is that I'm not worth the extra support, the extra help, the extra whatever, then, well, there you have it, right? You're not going to be able to break through that belief unless they consciously acknowledge it and want you to, right? So something to think about, and not to get frustrated when people just basically something that you thought was going to be a perfect match turns out not to be. Everything has its time, everything has its course, and everything is exactly as it's meant to be and always will be, right? So don't stress about it. Everyone has to take has to take responsibility for their own actions and their own lives, and at the end of the day, they will get the results that they demand. They get the results that they will believe that they deserve, right? So I'm feeling quite, what's the word? Content, I think, right now would be a good word. Content and slightly elevated, I think. So this is just off topic now, just kind of rambling. But I had another kinesiology appointment today with my amazing kinesiologist, Michelle. She's absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm sure that plenty of them are, but she's mine. And it triggered this as well for me to have a think about this, as well as many, many other things. But definitely a release of just even more releasing and even more filtering of just going, all right, whoever's meant to be in my life will be in my life. Whatever's meant to come will come. Everything is exactly as it needs to be. And I don't need to protect myself. I don't need to create barriers. I don't need to create this kind of full-on exterior and all that kind of thing. So it felt really good to, I guess I got this kind of just feeling of, yep, this is what I need to talk about. This is what I need to get out to you guys, that don't make yourself feel bad if you feel like you're beating your head against the wall and people aren't listening. Just stop beating your head against the wall. The right people that need that message and that will benefit from it and that will appreciate it will come to it. They will be drawn to it. They can't not. They can't not. If you put it out there, they will come, right? So don't worry if, I know it's hard, especially if it's maybe your family member or someone close to you that you'd really like to help. And I get that. And because I value all of my clients as friends. And I think that I get very invested in them. And that's fine, because that's something that I really enjoy. I don't work with basically non-soulmate clients. I guess you could call them people that I don't feel called to on a personal level, right? So I know it's hard to separate that. But like I said, at the end of the day, everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own responsibilities, and they need to work it out on their own, however they happen to do that. If you can be part of the journey, great. But if they're not ready for that, or if it's just not a right fit, it's just not a right fit. And that's what it's going to be, right? So this is what I mean when I talk about as well. This weekend, we've got the If It Fits Your Macros online workshop happening. So same kind of concept that I was talking about today, that you cannot make the horse drink. You cannot force people to want to do something that they don't want to do. And this comes down to a lot of education when it comes to this particular workshop that I'm doing, the If It Fits Your Macro workshop, right? Because people love, in general, the general public, love a quick fix. They love a fad diet, right? They love the stuff that's like, oh yeah, you're going to lose 5 kilos this week, and it's totally all going to be fat, and you're just going to feel amazing, and you're definitely not going to rebound. Although no, they don't even say that. They don't even pretend to say that. They just don't talk about the fact that you are going to rebound. They just completely skim over that, right? And it sounds great and it sounds awesome, and it's exactly what you want. Like if you look into Google searches, when someone types in, I want to lose 5 kilos or lose 10 kilos, is like one of the first things that comes up, right? So it's obviously something that people want. The problem with this is that, again, people are searching for that quick fix. That is what they are going to in terms of the water that you are taking them to. They will drink that straight away because they're like, okay, yes, that's exactly what I want. You're going to give it to me. I will definitely eat this rabbit food for the next week, right? But at the end of the day, you can't force people to take responsibility long term, right? That is something that needs to come from within. So this workshop, the If It Fits Your Macro workshop, this is not a short-term fix, right? This is not going to get you results of 5 kilos of, let's be honest, it's not fat, it's water loss in a week or two or anything like that, because you're not starving yourself, you're not binging and self-sabotaging and going around in circles like a yo-yo. You are actually learning how to eat in a way that A, suits your body, as in physiologically what actually feels good for your body, and B, what actually feels good for your mind. And you can fight me on this for as long as you want, and I will win every single time. Oh, dropping things. But at the end of the day, if all you're doing is working on your physically, in terms of what you're going to be eating, and you think that it's just that perfect diet plan that you need, and that's the whole solution, and you are adamant that your brain is not involved and that your emotions are not involved, then you're fucking kidding yourself, and you have been for a long time, and you may well be for a long time if you don't just admit that, you know what, we are human, which means we are emotional, which means we also have feelings, which means we also have thoughts, and which means that we all have personalities, and this personality comes into our eating as well. That is why certain people, they'll very quickly say, oh, I'm not a sweet person, or I'm more of a savory person, or I love my cheese and wine, or whatever it is, right? But that's our personality. That's not your body being like, oh yeah, I'm a wine and cheese body person. That's your personality. That's what you enjoy. That's what your mind enjoys. And at the end of the day, your mind is everything when it comes to your body. If you can master your mind, You can transform your body. You cannot do one without the other though. You can definitely do it for the short term, don't get me wrong. I've seen people, myself included, just willpower their way through into a fantastic shape and all that kind of stuff for as long as that willpower lasts, right? And that's not going to be forever. And you don't want it to be forever because it's tough. That's basically like those fad diets. Imagine if you did that fad diet that you did for 2 weeks, but you had to do that for now the next 20 years, right? It's not going to work. It's not going to happen. It's not designed that way. And you're not designed that way. You're not designed to just basically make yourself suffer for the next 20 years for no apparent reason, especially when there's an easier way. So that if it fits your macros approach, which is going to get explained absolutely, completely, top to bottom in this workshop, right? So your macronutrients, your proteins, your fats, your carbohydrates, they are the 3 different macronutrients that all our food is made up of. There's obviously different little anomalies and things that we talk about as well. We cover alcohol and that kind of stuff as well. But for the most part, especially if you are looking to lose more than just basically just weight from wherever, and you don't care if it's muscle or water or whatever, but if you actually want to change your shape so that you look toned and you look defined, and you go to the gym especially, this is awesome. If you happen to be a gym goer and you want to actually have a body shape as opposed to just kind of skinny and flab, then this is exactly why this is ideal for you, because it actually helps your body physiologically work in a way that supports those changes, right? So it supports your muscle mass, it supports, which by the way, muscle is the thing that makes you toned and defined. If you haven't seen my post or my stream from the other day, muscle is exactly what you want in order to get toned and defined. You can't get toned and defined without it. Cool, just checking that. So that is, now I've lost my train of thought, which happens. So in this workshop, I'm going to go through exactly how to understand how it all works, what kind of foods you need to eat, how to structure it, why different things like when you eat, how you eat, the types of foods you eat, why it's so much more flexible than you realize, why you don't need to be cutting out all junk food or not eating at particular times of day or whatever it is, or eating at particular times of day even, and just debunking all of that, because it's your body. It's your body and it works differently for every single body. And every time you get one of those quick fix fad diet type things, well, that's cookie cutter. There's no room for your individuality in it, not in terms of your physiology and not in terms of your psychology or your emotions, right? So it's about actually making it work for you long term. And this is why I mean, it takes you to get to that stage of going, yep, you know what? I'm done with the quick fixes and the things that aren't really worthy of me. I actually deserve to know what's going on with my body, to make it work the best way I know how, so that this is the vessel that's going to get me through every single goal that I want to achieve in my life. I'm going to fucking start taking care of it. I'm going to start eating in a way that suits me. I'm going to make it long term, and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to cut out all the foods that I actually do enjoy. I'm just going to make sure that it's working for me, body and mind, right? So the workshop's happening on Sunday night. It's going to be live, so you can watch it live, absolutely. And that way, just like this, you'll get a chance to ask me questions as we go along. However, if you can't make it live, not a big deal. We're going to have the replay available straight away, so you can rewatch it as many times as you need. You'll actually have access to that video of the webinar for life, as well as a week of support. So this is really, really important, because a lot of the time I will occasionally re-release different programs that I've done or anything like that. But the advantage of having it live and having it done now, when it's actually going to happen this weekend, is that you get that support. Later on, I may release the video. I don't know. I doubt it at this stage, because it is quite intricate, and therefore I like to be able to help people along with it, right? So, but even if I did, you're not going to have the support afterwards. And this is the really important part, that you actually have a week of support on that Facebook private group, where you get to ask me any questions you have, you get to get my support, you get to get basically run ideas past me. So you're going to be working out your own eating plan that works for you. And whilst you're working that out, you can actually have someone who's experienced in this to bounce ideas off and to check things back, so that you know what you're doing is correct and that you're getting the gist of it and all that kind of stuff. So that's really important, right? Cool. So if you want to be a part of this, there's still a few spots left. make sure you jump onto annabrooks.com.au/IIFYM. So that is happening this Sunday, 4 till 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. That's going to be the live workshop. The replay will be available straight away after that, but you do need to be registered in order to get access to it, obviously. And a week of support, as well as a VIP option. So if you know that you are in this for real and you are going to make this work and you are going to get the shit hot body you've always wanted, and you're committed, you're like like head over heels committed to this, then I seriously suggest you check out the VIP option. This is exactly who it's made for. Is an extra 3 weeks as well of support through that private Facebook group. So that gives you a full month, 4 weeks of support, so that you can get all of your questions answered. You can check back with me as many times as you want, and get all that extra support and help while you just basically implement it. Like in 4 weeks, you will have it down pat. You will have it working for you, right? So that is happening this weekend. Make sure you jump on. You are not going to want to miss this, because it's going to blow your mind, especially if you have ever in your life, which I know a lot of people have, if you're like me, bounced back between all these different plans and all these different ways of thinking, okay, I got to eat this, I got to cut out gluten, I got to cut out dairy, I got to do this, I got to do that. And all of it just basically left you feeling like, oh, fuck, when is this done? I want to get off this diet. Then this is exactly what you need, because this is a diet that you don't ever have to go on, and therefore you don't ever have to go off. It is simply working out a way that makes it work for your body long term without cutting out any food, unless you want to, unless it happens to be what makes you feel fantastic. That is the only caveat to cutting the food out. Otherwise, there is no reason. I'm not going to tell you you're not allowed to have this, and that this is a bad food, and that this is a good food, because at the end of the day, you have a lifetime to live and a lifetime to have this smoking hot body that you've always wanted. And it's a hell of a lot easier to do that without feeling like you are basically sacrificing everything you love and really like, even really like, just for the body, right? Because it doesn't last. It doesn't last. And then that's the reality of it. Whenever you feel like you're suffering, you're not going to stay in that state forever. So make sure you jump on. I'm going to pop the link down below as well. So get on, get registered before the weekend if you can, so that way you're ready, set to go. You'll get an email to confirm, and you'll get into the private group, and you'll be all ready for Sunday. Really excited, guys. Have a fantastic week. And it's Thursday. I'll keep thinking it's Friday for some reason, but that's all right. So if you have any questions as well about what I've spoken about today, about basically the perception and the filters and how to get through when people just won't listen, well, let me sum it up by just saying, let them be. Everything is exactly as it's meant to be, and they will figure out their own way, or they won't, and it will be their responsibility either way. So you can just relax and go have a fantastic night, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye.